Hi, fifth graders, and welcome back to another ELA lesson. I'm Miss Mooney,
I'm Mrs. Wilson,
and today's topic is going to be on character traits.
and the objective today is I can recognize character traits in a character from a fictional story.
So, Miss Wilson and I are super excited to share with you a book that both of us really enjoy, and then we'll do some fun activities with it. So, let's get started. So, let's go ahead first and review a couple vocabulary words that we've done so far this week. So, our first word was setting, and the setting is the place or type of surroundings where something is positioned or when an event takes place. So we gave the example of me sitting here, and my setting is Arizona, or my setting is my house. And then for characterization, this was the creation or construction of a fictional character. So, characterization is where an author creates a character. It's someone who isn't actually real in history, but they make up a character from their own imagination. And then lastly, historical fiction. And so this is a story based on real events, real settings, some real people, but also include many imagined events and characters. So if you remember the genre of Esperanza Rising, our book we're reading this week is historical fiction because it's from a real place, a real time era, real events were happening, but the people are imagined in the book, and some of the events are also imagined. And then lastly, we looked at main character. And the main character is who tells the story and who the story is mostly about. It's from their point of view. And then often the main character has their name in the title of the movie or the book. So in Esperanza Rising, Esperanza's name is in the title and she's also the main character. So let's introduce our new word we're going to be looking at today. And so it is character traits. So character traits are all of the aspects of a person's behavior and attitudes that make up a person's personality. So a character trait has outside traits. And so what do you think outside traits are, Mrs. Wilson?
I can see that you have eyes, and that is a good thing to put because that's a good reminder that it's something that we see with our eyes. It's on the outside through your physical traits.
Yeah, exactly. You got it. And so in this picture, we can see that the person in the middle looks like a boy or a man. And I see that he has brown hair. He has short, spiky hair. He looks like he could be tall. He has brown eyes. He's wearing boots. He's wearing a pair of blue shorts. And he's also in a bright green shirt. So just like Mrs. Wilson said, these are all things that I can see with my own eyes. So if I was describing my own outside traits, I would say I am in a bright red pair of glasses and I'm also in a green shirt, just like the guy in the picture. And then we also have inside traits. So what do you think those were, Mrs. Wilson?
So those, like just like it says inside, it's all those things that you're feeling. And if you could see on the guy's shirt, there's a heart, and
Oh,
that's a good
yeah.
reminder of what traits are because they're all on the inside. It's what you
Mm,
feel, right?
I like that. Yeah. And it also says their actions. So it's their thoughts, their words, um, their personality traits, and it is what we learn based on what the character says, does, thinks, or feels. So, in a book, when we're reading and we read about something a character is thinking in their head or something that they're feeling inside, those are their inside characteristics. That's not something that I can see, but I only know those characteristics based on if I talk to them. So if you were to ask me how I'm feeling today, I could tell you that I'm feeling super excited. I'm feeling kind of warm because it's really hot outside. I'm feeling hungry because it's almost dinner time for us. And so those are some of my inside personality traits. So, Miss Wilson, can you give an example of some of your inside or your outside personality traits?
So right now I feel lots of love for my family.
Oh,
Um, I'm thinking that I'm really thirsty because it's hot
mm,
out today.
mm-hmm.
Um, and just excited about for the week. So just a feeling of excitement of what's
Yeah,
to come next and
that's
anxious for
really cool.
dinner.
Yeah, me too. And so I found out those personality traits because I asked you and because you told me. If I were to say your outside personality traits, I could say that you're wearing a purple and a black shirt. I could say that you have your hair up in a ponytail, things like that, things that I can see.
So our story we're gonna go ahead.
No,
we both want to read the title, but that's okay.
excited.
Go ahead. Yes.
So the book that we'll be reading, that is one of me and Mrs. Wilson's favorites, is called A Bad Case of Stripes. So this is a really popular book, so maybe you've read it before, and it's by David Shannon. And so keep in mind how we just talked about personality traits, and the girl in this book has a lot of personality traits that we're going to be seeing. So we'll go ahead and get started.
Yeah. Okay, so Camilla Cream loved lima beans, but she never ate them. All of her friends hated lima beans, and she wanted to fit in. Camilla was always worried about what other people thought of her. Today, she was fretting even more than usual. It was the first day of school, and she couldn't decide what to wear. There were so many people to impress. She tried on 42 outfits, but none seemed quite right. She put on a pretty red dress and looked into the mirror. Then she screamed. I wonder why she screamed.
Wow. Yeah, look at all those shirts in the background. She has lots of outfits to pick from.
2 outfits.
42.
Oh, goodness. Let me see if I can read this.
I could read
Her
it.
mother ran, and she screamed too. Oh, my heavens, she cried. You're completely covered with stripes. This was certainly true. Camilla was from head to toe, striped from head to toe. She looked like a rainbow. Miss Cream felt Camilla's forehead. Do you feel all right? She asked. I feel fine, Camilla answered. But just look at me. You get back in bed this instant, her mother ordered. You're not going to school today. And Camilla was relieved. She didn't want to miss the first day of school, but she was afraid what the other kids would say, and she had no idea what to wear with those crazy stripes.
Oh my gosh. So I see an example of a personality trait that I can see, obviously, those crazy stripes. And then I also saw a personality trait of how she was feeling, and she was feeling afraid. She was afraid of what the other kids were going to say to her at school.
You are so right. That afternoon, Dr. Bumble came to examine Camilla. Most extraordinary, he exclaimed. I've never seen anything like it. Are you having any coughing, sneezing, runny nose, aches, pains, chills, hot flashes, dizziness, drowsiness, shortness of breath, or uncontrollable twitching? No, Camilla said, or told him. I feel fine. Well, then, Dr. Bumble said, turning to Mrs. Cream, I don't see any reason why she shouldn't go to school tomorrow. Here's some ointment that should help clear up those stripes in a few days. If it doesn't, you know where to reach me. And off he went. Ooh, even her tongue is striped. I didn't see that.
Wow, that's crazy.
The other kids thought this was great. Let's see some purple polka dots. And sure enough, Camilla turned all purple polka dotty. Someone else shouted, checkerboard, and a pattern of squares covered her skin. Soon everyone was calling off different shapes and colors, and poor Camilla was changing faster than you can change channels on a TV.
Oh my gosh. Those kids aren't being very nice to her.
No, not at all. That night, Mrs. Harms, the school principal, called. I'm sorry, Mrs. Cream, he said. I'm going to have to ask you to keep Camilla home from school. She's just too much of a distraction. And I've been getting calls from the other parents. They're afraid those stripes may be contagious. Do you know what that word, Mrs. Mooney, means? Contagious?
I've heard that word before when one of my brother or sisters are sick, and my parents say that we should kind of keep our distance so that I don't get the flu. So I think it means that, like, you could easily get it too. So they think that the other kids are going to get the stripes.
Yeah. That was a good explanation. Camilla was so embarrassed. She couldn't believe that 2 days ago everyone liked her. Now nobody wanted to be in the same room with her. Her father tried to make her feel better. Is there anything I can get you, sweetheart? He said. No, thank you, sighed Camilla. What she really wanted was a nice plate of lima beans, but she had been laughed at enough for one day.
Oh man, lima beans were her favorite, weren't they?
Yeah, she
Boy.
loves lima beans.
Oh, look at this picture. Well, yes, I see, Dr. Bumble mumbled when Mr. Cream phoned the next day. I think I'd better bring in the specialist. We'll be right over. About an hour later, Dr. Bumble arrived with 4 people in long white coats. He introduced them to the Creams. This is Dr. Group, Dr. Sponge, Dr. Cricket, and Dr. Young. Then the specialists went to work on Camilla. They squeezed, they jabbed, they tapped and tested. It was very uncomfortable. Well, it's not the mumps, concluded Dr. Group, or the measles, said Dr. Sponge. Definitely not chicken pox, put in Dr. Cricket. Or a sunburn, said Dr. Young. Try these, said the specialist. They each handed her a different bottle filled with different colored pills. Take one of each before bed, said Dr. Group. And then they filed out the door, followed by Dr. Bumble. So it looks like they still don't know why she's covered in zigzags and stripes and all those crazy colors.
Yeah, I see cheetah prints.
I see some numbers. That looks pretty crazy. That night, Camilla took her medicine. It was awful. When she woke up the next morning, she did feel different, but when she got dressed, her clothes didn't fit right. She looked in the mirror, and there staring back at her was a giant, multicolored pill with her face on it.
Oh my goodness.
Wow. So that's what happened when she took all those crazy pills that the doctors gave her. Oh my gosh, she
She
did
definitely
not look
morphed into a
happy.
pill for sure.
Did not look happy. Dr. Bumble rushed over as soon as Mrs. Cream called. But this time, instead of the specialists, he brought the experts. Dr. Gord
Ooh.
and Mr. Mellon were the finest scientific minds in the land. Once again, Camilla was poked and prodded, looked at and listened to. The experts wrote down lots of numbers, and then they huddled together and they whispered. Dr. Gord finally spoke. It might be a virus, he announced with authority. Suddenly, fuzzy little virus balls appeared all over Camilla. Oh my gosh, they look
No
like
goodness.
snakes in the pictures. Those are
Yeah.
scary. They look like
Like a
octopus tentacles
centipede.
or something. Yeah. Ugh. Or possibly some form of bacteria, said Mr. Mellon. Out popped a squiggly little bacteria tails. Or it could be a fungus, said Dr. Gord. Instantly, Camilla was covered with different colored fungus blotches. The experts looked at Camilla, then they looked at each other. We need to go over these numbers again, back in the lab, Dr. Gord explained. We'll call you once we know something. But the experts didn't have a clue, much less a cure. But now the TV news found out about Camilla. Reporters from every channel were outside of her house, telling the story of the bizarre case of the incredible changing kid. Soon, a huge crowd was camped outside the front lawn. So it looks like there's a bunch of people and they're trying to knock on our door. I see up over here, there's like a person peeking out of their window. Oh man. Oh, look at Camila. Oh my gosh, she even has branches coming off of her. The Creams were swamped with all kinds of remedies from psychologists, allergists, herbalists, nutritionalists, psychics, and an old medicine man, a guru, even a veterinarian, like a doctor that works on animals. Each so-called cure only added to poor Camilla's strange appearance until it was hard to even recognize her. She sprouted roots and berries and crystals and feathers and a long furry tail, but nothing worked. One day, a woman who called herself an environmental therapist claimed that she could cure Camilla. Oh my gosh, did Camilla turn into the house? Oh, close your
Oh
eyes, she
goodness.
said. Breathe deeply and become one with your room. I think that was bad advice. I wish you
Yeah.
hadn't said that, Camilla groaned. Slowly, she started to melt into the walls of her room. Her bed became her mouth. Her nose was a dresser. The two paintings were her eyes. The therapist screamed and she ran out of the house. What are we going to do? Cried Mrs. Cream. It just keeps getting worse and worse. And she began to sob. So here, her parents right here looking
Aw,
at her.
she's crying.
Oh
Poor
man.
thing.
Oh, here's a new character. At that moment, Mr. Cream heard a quiet little knock on the front door. He opened it, and there stood an old woman who was just as plump and sweet as a strawberry. Excuse me, she said brightly, but I think I can help. She went into Camilla's room and looked around. My goodness, she said with a shake of her head. What we have here is a bad case of the stripes. One of the worst I've seen.
Ooh,
She
I've
pulled
heard
a
that one.
container. I know, I guess that's her diagnosis, is the stripes. She pulled a container of small green beans from her bag. Here, she said, this might do the trick. Looks like she's putting the beans in Camilla's mouth. That's the bed, too. Are those magic beans? Said Mrs. Cream. Oh my, no, replied the kind old woman. There's no such thing. These are just plain old lima beans. I bet you'd like some, wouldn't you? Said Camilla, or she asked Camilla. Camilla wanted a big, heaping plate full of lima beans, more than just about anything, but she was still afraid to admit it. Remember in the very first page where she said none of her friends liked lima beans? But they might just save her. Yuck, she said. No one likes lima beans, especially me. Oh dear, the old woman said sadly. I guess I was wrong about you. So she put the beans back in her bag and started towards the door. Camilla watched the old woman walk away. Those beans would taste so good, and being laughed at for eating them was nothing compared to what she's been going through. She couldn't stand it. Wait, she cried. The truth is, I really love lima beans. I thought so, the old woman said with a smile. She took a handful of beans and popped them into Camilla's mouth. Said Camilla. Suddenly, the branches, feathers, and squiggly tails began to disappear. Then the whole room swirled around. When it stopped, there stood Camilla, and everything went back to normal. I'm cured, she shouted. Yes, said the old woman. I knew the real you was in there somewhere. She patted Camilla on the head, and she went outside, and she vanished into the crowd. And it looks like here's Camilla with no more stripes or zigzags or any of the crazy colors. Oh, but I see her bow, though. That's funny. She has a striped bow. And so that was the end of the book.
Yay.
That was a funny one.
I'm glad she's found herself at the end.
Me too.
We're going to talk about Camillas traits. So external, which, that also means the outside. So things that we can see with our eye. And parts of the books, we can see that she has stripes.
Mm-hmm.
We can see that she has hair. She always has a bow in her hair, like Mrs. Mooney pointed out her rainbow bow. Some parts of the book, she definitely, especially on this cover, she definitely has a pouty face. In that one page, she had a tail, and then she kept changing. So that definitely is an outside thing because the outside of her kept changing.
Mm-hmm.
And then at the end, in a tank top plus her shorts. And then at some point, she had branches and leaves. So those are all the things that were on the outside that we can see, the external ones. And then on the internal, which is the inside, and I put a heart there for a nice reminder. She was really embarrassed. Remember at the beginning of the book, she loved lima beans, but she was afraid about what people think because somebody made fun of her for liking lima beans.
Yeah.
She was sad at that one point. She was sobbing because nothing was working. And also, the statement that she made, I love lima beans, it's her internal. She's not telling other people, but she's keeping that inside, right? And she was happy, and at the end she was also relieved that there was finally a cure. And throughout the book she was worried, and you notice she said things like she wanted to impress. Remember the first day she tried on so many outfits because she wanted to impress. And then another eternal thought that she thought of was she was scared that people would laugh at her. So these are all Camilla's traits.
Wow, she had a lot of traits.
She did. And just, there are so many more. Was there any that stuck out to you, Miss Mooney, that we didn't talk about?
Well, I think her internal traits changed quite a bit because in the beginning you were saying that she was super nervous and she wanted to impress her classmates and she stopped eating the lima beans because she didn't want to be made fun of. But then in the end, I remember the older woman who they said looked like a strawberry. She had said, I know the real you. I know that you love lima beans. And lima beans was what saved her. And then she had that big smile at the end and she didn't have any stripes anymore. So I think that um, the character's traits can change during the book. It's kind of like all
Yes,
of
like,
her changing color. She didn't have a tail the whole time, and at the end, she certainly didn't have a tail. And so, personality traits or character traits, they can change. They can change all throughout the book. They don't have to be the same thing. Yeah.
very interesting. Thank you for
Fun.
adding that. All right, so this is our lima bean character trait. So we're going to have you guys do this. So you could do it with your ELI notebook and you're going to find your friend, correct, Miss Mooney?
Yeah.
So we're going to do a lima bean diagram, or Venn diagram, sorry.
It rhymes.
We're going to, on the top part, that's about you. Those are your personality traits. And then at the bottom is your friend's personality traits. And then in the middle, you're going to write the traits that you guys share or that are common. So for instance, you guys may both like the color blue, then that would be something that you share. But if you're what would you say? They love basketball and your friend loves football, then those would be your own personality traits.
Yeah, but maybe they both love soccer, so that could be right in the middle.
Yeah. Yep. Or if
Yeah.
your friend, you have hair and your friend has blonde, it doesn't matter. So
Mhm.
we're going to go ahead and pause the video and make your own Venn diagram.
And if you can't think of a friend, you can do your parent, you can do your sibling, you could do your pet, you could do anyone else who's in your life. Your grandma.
Oh, I like the pet idea. That's
Yeah, that
definitely
could be kind of
something
fun.
you could do on your own. Yeah.
And so
Because
this,
if you don't have any, yeah.
yeah, totally. And then this is also the Venn diagram thinking map. So the part where the circles go in, that's where you put the traits that you share. So yeah, just like Mrs. Wilson said, go ahead and pause for about 10 minutes or however long you need to fill out your chart. All right, welcome back. So Mrs. Wilson and I actually filled out a chart together to show you an example. So Mrs. Wilson, do you want to go ahead and read what's on your chart?
Sure. So something you may not know about me is I have 4 kids. I have a pet dog, which you guys met. I am married. My favorite colors are green and purple, which I'm wearing one of my favorite colors today. And my favorite subject is ELA. Miss Moody, you want to share yours?
Yeah, so I put that I was born in Arizona, that I have some pet turtles. I also put that my favorite colors are red and yellow, and I'm actually wearing my favorite color too. And then I put that my favorite subject in school is science.
So then we have some shared traits. I can read the top 2, Miss Mooney, and you can read the bottom 2.
Yeah, sounds great.
Okay, so we both teach 5th grade, and we love to read and swim. We found that out through this. And
then we also put that both of us live in Arizona. So we live in different cities, but we live in the same state. And then I put that we both go to ASU, which is Arizona State University. We're both students there. So cool. I'm excited. I wish we could see what you put down on your chart, but I bet you put some fun stuff on there. But here are some examples if you got stumped at all. So make sure you fill out your chart. All right, so we're going to go back to our friend Esperanza Rising from our Esperanza Rising book. And so we're going to talk about some of Esperanza's character traits. So we know that she is the main character in her book, and we're going to talk about the inside traits that we know so far just from the first 2 chapters, and then we'll talk about the outside traits as well. So for the inside traits, I put that she loves her family. So far this week, we've talked about how Esperanza and her father are really close and that she loves spending time with her family and her grandma and her mom. She's an only child and she just loves to be with her family. And then I also put, so I think I did these switched than how Mrs. Wilson did in the beginning. So these are the inside ones,
That's okay.
the heart ones. Kind of tricked you a little
So
bit.
the internal.
The internal.
Yeah, the heart one.
The heart ones. I like it. Yeah. So then the next one I put is that she loves the land she lives on. So on the first page, we saw that really great imagery, or kind of like that picture that the words painted about Esperanza and her father laying on the ground and feeling the heartbeat of the land. So she loves the land. We also put that she's very excited for her quinceañera, and that her and her friend were excited to start planning, and they've been thinking and planning their quinceañeras for years, and they feel really excited. That's what's motivating them right now. And then we also put that she worries for her family. So the last point that we left off in the book was that Papa hadn't come home yet, and so her and Mama were really worried, and they weren't sure what was going on in the field. And then lastly, we put that spending time with her friends makes her really happy. So we read that her best friend is named Marisol. And then she had a couple other friends at school that she really loved. And she was happy just thinking about being back in school with them. So those are all of her insight traits, or the ones that we know just because of Esperanza's thoughts, because of her dialogue, or her words that she says to her family and friends. And then let's go ahead and do the outside traits. So even though we can't see Esperanza because it's not a picture book, unfortunately, yeah, we can see it as with the words and how other people see her. So the first one I put is that she is a wealthy landowner's daughter. So people can see that because of the way that she dresses, that she has more money, their beautiful home that they live in, and also they can see who her father is. And then next we put that she wears beautiful clothes. So her mom and her grandma, they make her clothes, and they talk about how they use beautiful fabrics, and they do the embroidery where they embroider words and pictures on them. And then the next one is that she lives at her family's ranch, El Rancho de las Rosas. And so that's the ranch of the roses that they live on. And so we could see that just because of seeing where her house is in the book. And then lastly, that her family has many people who work for him. So we can also, or for them, and we can also see that because we can see who they're with in the book, who she's always talking to. She's very close to the woman who works in their house, and they have a really great relationship. So those are all of Esperanza's character traits. So I think we'll be learning some more about her character this week too.
Yes.
So now at home, to give you a little bit of a challenge, Mrs. Wilson and I want you to think of your favorite character, and then you are going to write their inside traits and their outside traits. So let's see, Mrs. Wilson, can you think of any of your favorite characters off the top of your head?
Off the top of my head,
I'm thinking,
I don't know.
I know it's kind of hard. I didn't think about this at first. Let's see. Well, I really like watching Frozen with my nieces and nephews. And so when I think of Elsa, some inside traits I see is that she really loves the place where she lives. She loves Olaf. She enjoys the cold weather. She thinks about how she can help other people. She's concerned about other people in her life and how she can help them. And then for outside traits, I'm thinking of her long blonde hair, her big blue dress that she wears. I'm also thinking of her wearing like a coat because it's so chilly where they are and all the snow. So there's a couple examples.
On her gloves. Yeah. I was totally thinking of a book character, but I wasn't thinking about like you can even use
yeah. Oh yeah, there's so many different characters that you
love Frozen.
It's crazy.
You could even use Olaf, like his inside traits is he loves summer. His outside is, he has a carrot for a nose. Those types of.
Yeah, so you can think of a lot of different characters. So now go ahead and use your ELA notebook to draw this kind of thing on your page. So you're going to have your favorite character on the middle. And so you can go ahead and you can draw that character. You can just write their name if you want. And then on one side, you'll write about their inside traits. And on the other side, you'll write about their outside traits. So feel free to go back in this video a little bit if you need some extra reminders or examples about what those traits can be. But go ahead and pause right now for some time so that you can try this on your own.
Wonderful. Welcome back. So just a quick closing real quick because we're all done for the day. But I want you to give you a heads up of what we're going to do for the rest of the week. So you guys will be reading chapters 3 and 4 of Esperanza Rising. And then I want you guys to start thinking, or to let you know that we will be making connections to our human rights. We've been working a lot with them this summer. And how are the characters in the books being challenged by those? So just get your work in and make sure you at least read chapter 3 for tomorrow and then chapter 4 for Thursday. And I look forward to seeing you guys.
Awesome. Well, that sounds great. Well, thanks for doing our lesson with us today, everybody.
We're excited.